and welcome to Turtle Tracks Podcast. I'm your host, Brian Van Hooker, and I'm here with the guys from Stern Pinball, Zach Sharp, the Director of Marketing at Stern, and illustrator Jeremy Packer. How you guys doing today?
Doing well.
Doing well.
Great. So I'm asking you guys here, if there are any Turtle fans that don't already know about the Stern Pinball Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles pinball machines, well, they're missing out because these are like truly beautiful pinball machines. They're amazing.
I appreciate that.
Oh, they look great.
I agree. Jeremy makes my job as director of marketing much easier, so I can kind of just sit back and let the artwork do the talking.
I'm glad to hear that. So, do I get paid for this one?
Checks in the mail, maybe.
I kid. They take good care of it.
And it's like the details, and we'll get into this in a little bit, but they're full of just amazing, nerdy details that are just like I'm just drooling over. So before I get to that, though, I got a question for you, Zach.
Yeah.
Tell me a little bit about Stern Pinball. Who are you guys? When did you start? All that stuff.
Yeah, so Stern Pinball has been in business for over 30 years now. And, at its core, we do everything pinball. So not just the physical machines, but we also, work and collaborate with the digital games. We sell merchandise, accessories, you name it, just all things pinball. And, our latest cornerstone game is Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. We partnered and worked closely with Nickelodeon, in bringing this property to life. And we kind of honed in on the original 1987 version, which I know Jeremy kind of knocked it out of the park from an artwork perspective. But, the lead game designer, John Borg, and lead programmer, Dwight Sullivan, really brought this property to life.
What kind of properties do you guys usually handle? So is Turtles like in the vein of that, or is there...
I like to use the analogy of when you go to a restaurant, we kind of have a wide menu. So we've got Star Wars, Stranger Things, AC/DC, the Munsters. So our catalog definitely runs the gamut of all different properties and licenses because, we service the worldwide market. So it's not just North America, but really the entire globe.
Very cool. So the Turtles machines, there are 3 different versions of it. Is that pretty typical for you guys? Like to have various editions of each of each machine?
Yeah, so typically 3 times a year we come out with what's called a cornerstone title, and that has a pro model, a premium model, and a limited edition. So the premium and LE models kind of are for the consumer market, so for the home collector, where the pro machine is more for the operator location market. So we help service, different markets, essentially.
Oh, very cool. Because I was looking, and what's cool about it wasn't just like each one was like, for lack of a better way to put it, a downgraded version of the previous one. It was like each one has its own unique art and cool features. Like some have more than others, but like everything is really cool. And it's not just this version minus other shit. It's just everything has its own cool rhythm to it. It's great.
Oh yeah, good, better, best.
So Jeremy, tell me a little bit about you. How did you get started as an illustrator, and what brought you to Stern?
I'm going to give you the short version because it's actually pretty long and windy. I grew up in northern Indiana. I had no athletic ability whatsoever. And so all I could do was draw things. And so I just went down that path and kept going. Got some scholarships, went to an art college, got in a lot of debt. Started as a fine arts major until all of the upperclassmen started graduating. And I got to see them at the gas stations working. And I go, oh, I don't want to do that. I want to work and try to pay this off. So I switched majors halfway through and became a time-based media major, which was actually film and animation. I never took an illustration class, even to this day. But that's okay because everything that I do is informed by everything that I know. And I have more probably probably more skills and more information in the animation world. So stylistically, that's why a lot of my stuff, I'm told, it looks clean, but it's not really clean. It's just that I kind of like the look of cell animation, things like that. And I try to kind of, do everything a little bit further. Having said that, when I graduated, I got stuck in the .com world for about 10 years. And it wasn't until, I want to say 2012, 13, that I had picked up a pencil for the first time at a request of an old high school friend of mine who now is a very prolific illustrator and designer in the world. Does a lot of stuff for Nike and all these other places, named by a guy that goes by the name Hydro 74. His name's Joshua Smith. We played, speaking of not having any athletic ability, we played football together in 7th grade, and we were terrible. Anyway, that I gave up after that. But so he sort of got me back into it. I started posting work online because that was still, Twitter was still kind of new and exciting, and people weren't there to hate each other. They were there to love each other for a brief period of time. And I started getting a little bit of a following. I started getting opportunities. And I just sort of, little by little, got rid of a day job and was full-time doing illustration, a lot of stuff in the music industry. And what happened was around 2013, I believe. Actually 2011, 2013 officially, but I had been contacted by an old pinball designer who I will not name, who I worked with for almost 5 years before finding out that nothing was actually ever being made. Anyway, I'm not going to go into that one. Long story short, I was sort of at that point seen by people who actually made pinball machines like Stern. And they go, "Oh, you're the one who was doing that. Hey, we actually like that artwork." I through a mutual friend, was introduced to Greg Freris, who is the art director at Stern. And we went to lunch, had a talk, had a good time, laughed at some jokes, and eventually, I don't know, 2-3 months later, we kept in touch. And at one point, he said he might have something for me. And eventually found out that was Ghostbusters. And so that was the first license that I got to do, first title. And it turned out pretty decent, I think, because they hired me to do more. And so that was 2015. And I've been working with them pretty much ever since, to varying degrees. I've been kind of working nonstop for over a year now on, 2 different titles now. So, but yeah, that's the background. It's boring. It's, how things happen.
I'm curious, what does pinball machine art call for? Like, what's unique about that versus comic books or cartoons? Like, what does it need?
Well, okay, so that's interesting. Let me give you just a slight background. So I gave you the background of, I was just a nerdy kid. Well, the details of being a nerdy kid was I was a huge comic book and comic book fan and gamer as a kid. I grew up, my first, and this is how weird I am too, my first console that I had as a child was a Sega Master System. Isn't that terrible? My parents hated me. Anyway, that's sort of, I was destined to do something weird at that point, if that's where I started. Anyway, I loved Sega. I actually followed every system they ever had after that. But having said that, I grew up. My dad worked in construction, I should say. He's retired now. And I grew up, he was in a bowling league because, when you do sort of, that kind of day work, you have sort of these, bizarre. Was bowling big in the 80s? I don't know.
I was in a bowling league. I was in a bowling league when I was a kid. Yeah.
Okay, well, there you
trophies. Go. And I just as much.
Yeah. See, I don't know anything. So long story short, I would actually go with my sister, and I was like, I don't know, second grade. And my sister was 3 years older than me, and she would literally like kind of watch me. Like that was back when like kids could sort of be left to their own, and you didn't worry they were going to get murdered. At least not as much. It was less frequent back then. Anyway, so I would go Wednesday nights, and it was until like 10 o'clock at night, which for me was like incredible because as a kid, like I couldn't stay up past like 8, right? And my sister and I would basically just play pinball. And actually, they had a Dragon's Lair there, too. So, like, whenever I could, I'd play that. But we found out the pinball machine, if you got underneath it, flipped the switch, turned it off, turned it back on, you get one ball for free. So, anyway, we played pinball every Wednesday for hours on end. So, having said that, my dad loved pinball, and eventually he, at one of the jobs, he was doing a remodel, he came home with an old Gottlieb roller coaster that actually worked, by the way, too. And we had that in our house, and I played it daily for years. I always admired and loved the art. It was all silkscreen work back then, even though, let's be honest, some of those machines, and that one in particular, is not the most artistic machine ever made. I was always drawn towards that sort of cleanly silkscreen look, which again, to me, reminded me of sort of the cell animation as I discussed earlier. So needless to say, what does pinball take? I don't know that I've ever sat down to actually sort of put it into any academic terms. But for me, I just sort of, gobble up, years of gaming and sort of regurgitate and try to find things that would draw me across the room. And then when I got there, would keep me sort of staring and poring over it. So I don't know that I have a good answer for it, other than I try to make something that doesn't suck. And then, secondly,
a noble goal.
Yeah, hope that people agree with me that it doesn't suck. At the end of the day, I like making things sort of freeze frames in time of action or impulse sort of scenes, things that again, hopefully are exciting. But you don't know. Everybody's different. I just have a different sensibility. Some people, what is considered action is much different than what I consider action. How's that?
It's true. Like I hadn't realized this until you just said that. But looking at the art for the Turtles things, there is no picture of the 4 turtles looking forward pensively or any of that. It's like a story in motion for Christ, the entire machine all over. Every panel is like a different. They're eating pizza. They're hiding in the sewers. There's always something going on in each picture, which is really cool.
Yeah. My whole goal is to make sure that I don't repeat myself. I look at it as there's so many pieces that give me opportunity. And I also look at the price of these things and I go, geez, man, these things better look like the Mona Lisa. Oh, by the way, the Mona Lisa is ugly. So that's not a good example, but anyone out there, I'm sure they'll get that. I would hope that, people can appreciate, and I always say this is my go-to, is my goal at the end of the day is if people don't like what I've done, because objectively speaking, art is subjective, that at least they look at it and go, well, it looks like he spent a lot of time on it. I guess there's that. With the Turtles, though, I'm a huge Turtles fan. Like my fondest memories, and again, I'm a big gamer, so my fondest memories obviously I watched the cartoon in the mornings before school. The first 5 episodes premiered in my neck of the woods in the morning before school. And that was, I loved it. And I was like, oh, this is fantastic. Obviously, I knew about him because of the comics. I knew that this was not the comics, but I was still fascinated by it. And then I still remember to this day the first time I walked into an arcade and I saw the Konami 4-player machine. And like me and my one friend, because I only had one friend. I didn't have 4. I didn't have 3 others. It was just one. Went up there and we fought over who was going to be Donatello. Of course, I won. And so when I found out about this project and when I was asked if I would be interested in it, I literally had to kind of hold myself back from kind of like making a squee noise. I know that's strange, but it's the noise I make. And I was really, really happy. And all throughout, I said my goal was to elicit that same feeling for people of my age group of when they first approached that Konami arcade, back in 89, I think, something like that. I don't know if I succeeded, but I did not want to create my own version of the Turtles that didn't pay respect to that era, and that was actually kind of a hard sell too. But that's another conversation that I don't.
I gotta say, for that level of fan like that, you can't see this on a podcast, but like I'm obsessed with the Konami game. Like that's the original Turtles in Time cabinet behind me.
Nice.
Which
nice.
I obsessively looked for years, finally buying one and saving the money for it and all that shit. So like, just from the pictures of this, I was like, I got that like geek out, holy shit, I need to have this machine feeling.
That's good.
100% succeeded. Yes.
Good. Mission success. But there's a lot of people like in the pinball world, there's a lot of people who look at this and go, Turtles, why the Turtles? They don't get it.
Sure.
But the people who do, I hope will have a deep connection like what you just said, and they'll totally get it and love it. And to that end, working with Nickelodeon was literally effortless. They were very supportive from the get-go with the direction that I was taking it. As a matter of fact, they've hired me outside of Stern to do a little bit of work, which I thought was, for me, that's like, that's geek level. I've already hit like, the highest level I can, and now it's just all bonus XP. And so for me, that's validation, I guess. But at the same time, I always step back and I go, it's not really validation unless people like you, like the people who really need to be getting this, respond to it. And so far, I've had nothing but positive stuff. Maybe the negative people just remain quiet. I look at it and think of things I could do differently. One thing I'd love to be able to tell you, and I don't know that I can convey it, is what the schedules are like. So trying to maximize the amount of input that I can, the amount of work I can get done within the time frames is kind of, difficult. So I always look at it and go, man, if I would have had, another couple hours here or there or whatever. But I just try to do my best and hope that people don't hate it.
No, dude, I like you nailed it for me. Like I saw these things online and like within a couple of hours, I immediately emailed Zach and was like, I need to talk to you guys about this. It's so cool. Like just like geeking out over it.
That's
Zach,
great.
Here's a question for you. Like what goes into the decision of like using original art versus what exists? Like I saw you guys have a Star Wars comic book pinball machine, which is beautiful. But I'm curious, what goes into the decision of like, let's use the art that already exists versus let's make something new? What drives that?
He's long gone.
Oh, okay. We just.
I'm sorry.
Oh, there he is.
I heard my name. I know it keeps like going in and out. I apologize. I'm like,
no problem.
What was the question?
Basically, like what goes into the decision making of like, let's use original art for something, or like something that exists. So I know you like on your site you have the Star Wars comic book art machine, and from what I can tell, it looks like that was the art from the comics lifted onto the machine, and that's beautiful. But I'm curious, what drives using that or recycling 30-year-old artwork from Mirage Studios? Like, what drives that?
It's usually a collaborative process. I mean, every licensor is different. Specifically with Star Wars, when we first came out with that game, well, I mean, technically there's been like 5 incarnations of that license throughout the pinball decades. But from a recent Stern perspective, we came out with the original trilogy with, the standard movie art. And that was, I think 3 or 4 years ago. And then, just working with the licensor, we talked about this idea of doing kind of a retro original comic book style artwork for it. So again, not every property is the same. So it really just depends on our interactions with the licensor, what they're looking to promote and highlight. And, it's no different than what we did with our recent Deadpool pinball machine, where we went with the comic book IP versus the movies. And Jeremy actually did the artwork on that game as well.
I saw that. Yeah. That's really cool.
Well, I'll speak to it from my side of it, which is if I don't have the ability to create, art from whole cloth, there's kind of no reason for me to be involved. And so I try to pick and choose, and I know that, for instance, on this license on Turtles, they don't have a huge amount of assets in a style guide to put something like this together and do it properly, in my opinion. Now, when I say that, I mean, sure, you could put something together, but it's not going to have quite the nuance, and you're not going to be able to, I guess, sort of make your own stories and that's pretty huge when it comes to the game rules, when it comes to, obviously the LCD stuff, things like that. So I've been fortunate enough to be able to be kind of picky. I actually was asked to do the Star Wars comic book version, believe it or not, and I turned it down for this.
Wow.
And another project, which I can't say because I also turned it down. But they held out, and so I'm back on that one. So that's good. But having said that, just to tell you how much I love Turtles, everyone said I was crazy.
Wait, why?
Because a lot of people don't like if you go 87 Turtles versus Star Wars, people go, Star Wars is huge. I look at it and go, yeah, Star Wars is huge, but Star Wars has been done, and it's going to continue to be done. What can I bring to the table? I don't think I can do much. I mean, I can make it, I guess as cool as I can for now, but I have a feeling that licensor wasn't probably going to be as nice to me either. Selfishly, that's sort of a joke. But with Turtles, I go, man, here's a space that I think, some people may not realize they want and need, and I think I can hopefully try to make them convinced otherwise. And that's why I always say that if it's not a challenge, then I might as well not do it. And Deadpool was a challenge. Ghostbusters was a challenge. I mean, the thing I'm on now is a challenge. Not to be like, I'm so wonderful and I love to be I literally, if I'm repeating myself, I'm bored. And that's just sort of, that's true in everything. I think everyone's that way.
Zach, I'm curious if you can tell me about some of the physical game features. Like, what are some of the ones you love to talk about? Because there's a lot of really cool ones that I'll let you talk about.
Yeah. So on all models, there is the pizza disc. So I don't know I'm sure you've seen the game trailer, but it's a high-speed magnetic spinning pizza disc, and it's capable of holding up to 3 pinballs at the same time, and it can spin around and launch them everywhere. And that's to kind of start Ninja Pizza multi-ball mayhem, which is really cool. So that's on all models. On the Premium and LE, that disc can spin both directions. So really, it makes that ball wild. On the Premium and LE models, there's a interactive custom sculpted Turtles van. So like right by the left ramp, this van, the Turtles van, can hold up to 4 pinballs. And when you start Turtle Power multi-ball, the balls will spill out of the van. So it's almost like the turtles spilling out, going to battle. So it's a really cool moment when you're playing.
The van is, I think, what hooked me at first. That van was like, for some reason, is it not in the standard model or the pro model? Because it looks like it is, but maybe I'm misseeing
it. It is. It's just it's a custom sculpt that's static in the pro.
Oh, I see. But like the balls pouring out of the turtle van, I think was maybe the first thing I saw. Was like, what the fuck is this? And I need to. That's such a cool feature.
Yeah. So no, I mean, and that's how we service, the different markets. So for that home collector or a hyper turtles enthusiast, that premium and LE model has those extra bells and whistles. You have Raphael on a glider where you can position it to return the ball to different flippers. So it's a player controlled diverter. But on the pro model, not to say that people in the home market don't buy the pro model, because those go out on location predominantly. There's less moving parts, so that way they're more. They can last longer, less breakable parts, just to make it more streamlined for operators with less maintenance.
Yeah, can you talk about the Raphael glider? Because that was a cool little detail. That was really, I don't know, that was great.
Yeah, so on the middle of the lockdown bar by your flippers, there's an action button, and when you hit the button, it changes the position of the glider. So you can have the ball return to the flipper of your choice. Versus on the Pro, whatever path you're hitting the ball, it's always going to return to the same spot. On the Premium and LE model, you can physically control which way the ball is going to go.
What is that crank feature too? Because that looks, I couldn't, like, it just looked like Crane was shaking in an amazing way, but I didn't know what it was.
Yeah, so that's a custom sculpted mechanical crane, and it will jump up and down by that pop bumper area and taunt players throughout game action.
The crank was cool. It glows and he lights up too, which is just awesome. Is there any other thing too like that? I know there's like a team up feature.
I think I might have dropped off.
Oh, sorry. You're there, Zach. Hey, Zach.
Maybe he's not. I've heard him pull this before in interviews when he wants to leave. He goes, I think I dropped off, and then he disappears.
Got it.
No, all right. Well, I think I'm back now because now there's not a static image on my phone. Before it's like I was like saying something, and both of you were like just completely static. I'm like, wow, I'm really killing this interview, guys. No, so going in, I think the last thing I heard you say was just talking more about the code in the machine.
Oh, no. I mean, you can talk about that, but I won't understand a word you're saying about the code.
I'll keep it extremely high level. No,
sure.
But,
yeah, cool.
It's really cool. So like Droid is a huge fan of the Turtles. So, right from when you hit the start button, I mean, you're transported to the Turtles universe. Right before you launch your first ball, you can select your turtle. So, if your favorite is Michelangelo. And what's really cool is each turtle gives you different powers and attributes. So if you choose Donatello, you will have only one shot on the right ramp to start Turtle Power multi-ball. So each turtle has like their unique power. And depending on which turtle you pick, during gameplay, if you start like a team-up battle, you can get perks throughout gameplay. So it's really cool. I won't dive into the nuance because I won't do it justice. But, for any Turtles fan, I mean, it really dives into the essence of what that show's about.
That's cool, because I was curious what that screen's about, because I don't, I don't play a ton of new pinball machines, to be perfectly honest with you. So I'm used to it being those little, like, light up grids. So is that, like, there's a character select in that screen?
Yeah, and there's actually one on the you can see them lit on the shooter lane with lights, so you can kind of pick both ways. And that's actually one of the things that when we had our first meeting when I came in and I talked with Dwight, that was one of the first things that I said, and he was already there. Was I said, number one, it's got to be like the arcade. You got to be able to pick your character. And number two, you got to be able to play co-op. You got to be able to play together as a team. And so that's one of the things that he's brought. And co-op isn't necessarily new to pinball, but the way he's done it is extraordinary. And it's, you can literally buff and do things that the next player character. And by the way, you can only each be one of the turtles. You can't be the same, so it's legit. And then you can actually sort of make it further progress as a team, as opposed to just playing it one player and maybe not quite ever getting far enough into the game to see certain things. And the other thing that he did was Dwight. We pulled sort of the modes and everything from episodes, so we've kind of recreated a lot of classic episodes from the first 3 seasons. That was actually something that he had come up with, and he came up with a way to do actually even like two-parters kind of thing in the modes, which again, I hear you on the pinball code being like a little bit confusing when you're sort of not playing the modern games, because they seem intimidating to like most people. But I assure you, you will know exactly what you're doing. And this one, because it is a theme that you like, actually it might actually explain things, and then all of a sudden it'll click for you, because that's what happened to me with Ghostbusters, and even more so with Deadpool was like I was just like you, like I played pinball, but I was used to playing pinball games that maybe weren't quite as high level in this regard. But I will tell you this: once it clicks, once you get it, you understand the addiction. You understand why people are spending way too much money on these machines all the time. Wait a minute,
I didn't know co-op. I didn't know co-op.
What are you talking about? They're not spending enough on it, Jeremy. Come on.
I'm sorry. Never mind. I didn't mean to say that.
What is co-op? I mean, I don't know if you can answer this, Zach, but what does co-op in a pinball game look like? Because I'm used to playing, Temple of Doom 1980 whatever's machine at, my local barcade. So I'm curious what that is.
Yes, so it's really unique because, this isn't the first iteration of co-op in pinball. At the highest of levels, co-op in pinball is kind of everyone shooting, no pun intended, for the greater good, trying to work your way through the game and get to, the ultimate wizard mode. So it kind of saves progress between players. So instead of just, one player playing 3 balls to try to achieve, getting through all the episodes, completing all the multi-balls, getting to these wizard modes, if you play 4 players, you're all working off of each other. So if player 1 completes 2 episodes, when player 2 goes up, those 2 episodes are already completed and they're working on episode 3 or 4, if that makes sense.
Oh, cool.
What Dwight did, though, he incorporated team play co-op, which is really cool. So say that, you're terrible at pinball like Jeremy and his family, and they want to play against, me, who's a world-class player. It could be 1 versus 3.
Also true.
And it's the 3 of their scores battling just me at the same time. So it's really cool, So if you're bringing this for the family and, dad or mom's really good and the kids are just getting better, they can team up and try to take down the parents, which is really cool.
Oh, very cool. What's the team up mode? So I saw this little Turtle Com with Casey, Metalhead. I forget who the other 2 were. I think it was Neutrino, and was it Splinter?
Yeah.
What's the team up? What's that about?
Yeah, so with the team ups, that's if you complete it, you'll get some perks. So each episode, you can get these perks. So whether it's 2 times pizza-o-meter, or getting Krang his body, or lighting in lanes for special events, it adds to what's currently taking place in the game.
Oh, cool. And Bebop and Rocksteady have a play on there too, right? I saw something. I'm obsessed with Bebop and Rocksteady, so but their feature is in the game.
Yeah, they've got their own episodes, and they also are both featured in both the outlanes and spinners, and have other effects that actually probably Zach can explain. By the way, Zach is actually a professional and extremely good player, and
Okay.
I am actually not. So
He's actually not bad. I used to be better. I joked. I used to be ranked number 1 in the world of competitive pinball.
Oh,
And
wow.
then my wife and I had our first kid, and let's just say I love my child more than my world ranking.
So I wanted to go down a little bit model by model. I'm curious. I was just going to go one by one. With the Pro, so like it has this really cool like sewer lid artwork and the pizza stuff on the sides. Is there anything you wanted to mention about the Pro model? Because I wouldn't know there's something better than the Pro model unless you showed it. Like I would just be like, oh, that's the most amazing thing I've ever seen. So I mean, is there anything you want to talk about with the Pro model?
I'll defer to. Oh no, I was going to say I'll defer to Jeremy. I mean, this is really artwork specific. I kind of spoke to the physical aspect, so go for it, Jeremy.
Well, that's what I was going to say. Functionality wise or artwork? No. Well, so the Pro to me, because I know that's primarily that's usually like Zach was saying, that's usually a location machine. A lot of times, you'll a pizza place or an arcade, barcade, whatever. A lot of them will upgrade, but many of them will just go with the Pro, and so I treat the Pro sort of as the most approachable for my money, which is to say I'm cheap. I always think I'm probably going to be able to afford a Pro maybe. And so I start there and I go, okay, I got to make sure that I would be happy to have this in my house. So this is sort of a broad package. It started off, actually the first sketch I ever did was that grouping of the turtles on the back glass that you see there. That was the first sketch I did. And I was like, man, I really want kind of this dynamic sort of space and play. And I didn't know where I was going with it, but from there I decided, for the cabinet, just to kind of poke people with warm fuzzies. So you got to have turtles coming out of a sewer. You got to have Michelangelo eating pizza, and there's no way on earth you can't have Shredder. And in this case, I managed to get Krang and the android body in there as well for the sides. Overall, I just wanted it to be the broadest. And then I sort of, from there on the premium and LE, since those are usually like what I would call the pinball nerd buyers, those are the ones that you get a little more specific on. Sometimes you pull out maybe a scene from the game that will be in there, if it'll be in there, because keep in mind, while I'm working, everybody else is working, so code and story, everything is all coming together at the same time. I don't always know that information, but that's sort of the approach. Premium is kind of the it's not limited like the LE, obviously. But it shares the features of the LE in many ways. So that's the one where, I always kind of have the biggest problem figuring out how to appeal to people. It's still, you want to be broad, but you kind of want to create something unique. And so that's why, like the front, I decided to focus on sort of a Mouser invasion sort of precursor. And that's why you've got on the side, the turtles. You got a Mouser coming in as the turtles are obviously keeping an eye on things from underground. And then Bebop and Rocksteady. I mean, you got to have Bebop and Rocksteady in there. But the proudest thing, and I don't know this is true or not, but I'm going to say it is. I think I did something no one has ever done in pinball on this one. And regardless of if I'm right, I don't care. I'm very proud of it anyway. And that is, I introduced a meme onto the artwork on the side cabinet, and that is the Cowabunga It Is Michelangelo meme that exists in the world, because I love that meme. I think it's absolutely fascinating, and it confuses so many people. I love it.
It's so great. That was the detail. That was like, I was like, so originally I just reached out to Zach at Stern, and I was like, I saw the the meme thing on the front page of the paper, and I was like, okay, whoever made this is like an obsessed, crazy turtle fan. So that was like a clincher for me. And I think, weirdly enough, like I think the premium model might be my favorite. I think because it's like really villain centric. Like I said, I'm obsessed with Rocksteady. So like that machine to me, I like the really purple color scheme to it. Like the Bebop and Rocksteady on the side is just the top of the artwork is so cool. Like the whole thing is just really, really great.
Well, the back glass on that one, the Translite, the artwork on that, I really wanted to capture like so you remember the cartoons of that era, less so now, but of that era, they would always have like a really high level team, usually from overseas, do the intro, right? And the intro was always like the most dynamic, best animated, right?
Yes.
And so I want like some of the original again, the original seasons of the Turtles. Some of the opening segments of that were so dynamic to me, and I wanted to push that through with this one, and that's why you get that extreme angle up on things and the Turtles sort of coming at it. Things like that again, I don't necessarily want to do what's been done before, but I want to kind of be informed by it and pay respect to it, but just sort of in my own way. But yeah. But getting back to the meme, I did not expect that to get through. I had an alternative paper with that got rid of that meme entirely because I kind of thought, well, first off, either Nickelodeon, these guys who work there in the turtle department, obviously they know the turtles. But maybe they're going to go like, man, that's not something we should do, this, that, or the other. Not a word about it. And so I was so happy the day that I heard that it was approved with no changes. I go, yes. I couldn't wait for people to see it. And so far, you're the only one who has really spoken up and said that you recognize it.
Oh yeah, I mean that was like I saw your Instagram feed and I saw it on there and I was like, holy shit. I mean, is that what your reaction to him including Cowabunga it is? Like what was your thinking on that? Oh, I think
do you want me to do my Zach impression?
Sure, we can try that.
Okay. It was fantastic. We should pay him more. No, yeah. Well, no. It was if I could have, I would have wherever possible slipped in more. There actually were some things, and I'm not going to talk about it, but there were some things that I wanted to do on the playfield originally. That before I ever actually implemented them, we had discussions about, and we kind of strayed away from. And I actually, in hindsight, I don't know what I was smoking at the time. And by the way, it was nothing, but it was the right decision. So I'm actually happy somebody brought me down on that one.
Do you have an example of a bad idea or a crazy idea not included?
I wanted to pay wherever possible on this when for instance there's vehicles or even specific characters. My whole mantra was always defer to the toy. As a matter of fact, on the LE, that pose of Krang and the android body on the back glass, the mirrored back glass, is actually sort of my weird interpretation of the illustration of the android body in the original toy, because it was
the box art, the Playmates box art.
It was such a weird, it was a weird pose, and it always it actually kind of bothered me as a kid, but over time I kind of grew to like respect the oddity of it. And so little things like that. So I don't want to say what it was because I don't know, I don't want to, but it was things like that, where again, I would go, okay, let's always defer to the toy. Like the drill on the side.
Yes, that's the toy drill, not the cartoon. Yes, drill, which I know absolutely. Is great. Yeah,
absolutely. I said, listen, same with the Turtles van is sort of more the toy. I kind of did a hybrid on some things, but it's more that than the other. The coloration, we always went that route. And probably the only one that I broke that on a little bit was the Technodrome, because I like the design in the cartoon better than the actual toy. And that's a
tough.
personal preference.
I mean, you could probably see the Technodrome behind me.
Oh, yeah.
But like as you grow older and the toy gets smaller, you're like, oh shit, like
yes.
it's underwhelming after when you get to be an adult.
Yeah, it's still cool. It's still cool, and I love it. But at the same time, I thought, well, and I knew that the Technodrome, which where's Zach? Am I allowed to say this, Zach?
Possibly.
about something that will come out later.
Maybe let's hold off on that.
Okay. And that's why I asked.
Better safe than sorry.
Yeah, that's true. Yes. So as I was going to say nothing, I was not going to say a thing.
I'm glad I didn't drop out at that time.
I wouldn't have until I heard from you. I would have filled the dead space with me rambling, I'm sure.
We could just assume Stern is building a working Technodrome.
No. That would be cool, though. I'd be okay with that.
No, but I get you. Like the toy Technodrome, the show Technodrome was like, Death Star on tank wheels.
Yeah.
Cool and, great, but like, the cartoon Technodrome makes sense to go to there.
Yeah. Well, and actually and just for the sake of nerdiness, one thing that I did, and I did two things on this project to try to pay respect to the original property that no one will care about, but this is how stupid and dumb I am in my thinking. The differentiator in this version of the Turtles to me versus every version that's come since is the fact that they are very much rounded, curvilinear forms. As each iteration would come after, they've become more angular.
Sure.
And for me, I actually like mixing the strength of angles and curves. But with this one, I literally tied my hands and said, no, I'm going to push this curve thing as far as I can. And I would literally redraw and like erase constantly when I'm sketching, going, no, can't do that. That's an angle, which is dumb. So that was my first primary thing. The secondary thing I did, and this was, again, to pay respect, again, to the fact this was an animated show, is the only time I use black line in any of the artwork is what would be a moving character or vehicle. So, and you probably can't tell this in the photos because the photos are they're pretty contrasty. But when you get close to it, you'll be able to see it. And whether you recognize it or not, I think it adds to it. But all of the background elements do not have black line. They're all more painterly, colored lines, things like that. And it's little stupid things like that I obsess on. And people thought I was kind of crazy, like when I would be like, oh, no, I have to do this. And they're like, no, why would you do that? And I'm like, well, just trust me. And in the end, I think everybody, has been very positive and supportive of it. I have to say, I think the best work I've ever done has been with Stern. And that's why I continue to work with them as long as they continue to allow me to, is they do actually respect me. And give me some leeway at times when, let's be honest, I haven't earned it at all. There's nothing I've done that earns that respect. But having said that, I try to be thoughtful when I work on a project. And again, I won't work on it unless I think that I understand it fully and know I can do something worthwhile with it. This is my favorite project out of everything I've done. So, I don't know if it's their favorite project that's ever been done with this license, Nickelodeon, but I'm very proud of it, and I hope it gets out there soon so everybody can actually get up close to it and start playing it and poring over it.
Oh yeah, I mean, I'm very excited about it. I'm getting on to limited edition. Let me go to you, Zach, first, if you don't mind. I'm curious, like, what makes the limited edition the limited edition? Like, there's cool green metal to it, which gave it a totally different pop than the rest of it. But what makes the limited edition so special?
Well, considering they're all sold out right now, I'd say that's pretty limited. No, it is limited to 500. So that's once the 500 are made, sold, that's it. Versus the premium and pro models, we will keep building those as long as there's demand.
All 500 have sold already?
Yep.
All
over the world.
Jeez, that's amazing.
So you're telling me I'm not getting one?
Is your check in the mail?
No. That's okay. I'll live.
Yeah. So that's what makes it extremely limited. There's also a couple of nice add-ons. There's a certificate of authenticity signed by Gary Stern, president of CEO of Stern Pinball. Also, the game designer John Borg has a signed placard on it, and it's numbered. You have a numbered plaque on it, just saying, number 1 of 500.
Yeah, and also the back glass, the translate, is actual glass.
Yes.
And it also has an etched mirrored pass of line work as well. So as you walk around it, you get this weird effect. It's pretty cool.
Yep. There's a limited edition exclusive inside art blades, hand drawn by yours truly, not me, Jeremy. And there's a lot of other upgrades. There's a shaker motor installed. There's anti-reflection playfield glass. There's a really cool custom high gloss sour apple green powder coated armor and legs. So that's that green trim is cool. Specifically for that. Yeah, it's beautiful.
And the cityscape on the inside is great. The neutrinos cars flying through there, like there's so much cool. And the module artwork on the side, I was nuts about. So I mean, like the whole that machine is just fantastic. It's great. And the turtles in the hats on the front. Detail. I love that.
I did too. I wanted to get them in trench coats on here somewhere, and it's not everyone's favorite. We'll just put it that way. And so I managed to get them on the front. But what was the funniest thing for me was I saw some people in the pinball forums, of which we won't speak of their names. And they're like people who aren't Turtles fans, right? And they're looking at it and they're going, "What's with the goofy turtles on the front of the LE?" And I'm just like, "Oh, you people don't understand."
Oh my god, no, that was like one of the things I geeked out most about. The trench coat turtles is great.
And they're so happy. I made sure that they were very happy. That's the other distinguishing factor of this version of the Turtles. This is the happiest version of the Turtles. And despite everything that's going on in the world, I was working on this, finishing up a few things over, the whole sort of COVID period, which I think we're kind of still in. And I thought, what, this is going to be perfect when it comes out, because it's like, this is the most lighthearted, just happy, like for someone my age, like I don't have to worry about the fact that the world's on fire anymore. I can just focus on happy things, but whatever. That's my justification.
No, it's cool. That's what I like about it too. Like, there's so many different versions of the Turtles. I mean, the 87 cartoon is probably the most iconic version of them, but like it's also brighter, more silly, more fun, and I feel like that lends itself to pinball better than the Dark Mirage Turtles, or even like the movie Turtles, which are my favorite, like the first one anyway. But like that you can get this sort of bright, crazy colors and fun stuff for a pinball machine, which I don't know it would translate to even the Nickelodeon cartoon, which is the 2012 cartoon, which is cool and bright in its own way, but it's not like that kitschy, fun silliness that you had back in the 80s and 90s.
Yeah, I agree. And actually, again, for the pinball crowd that's familiar with my work, I think they were expecting, the last game that released that I did was actually Primus, for the band Primus. But before that, right before it was Deadpool, and right before that was Iron Maiden. So like everybody's thinking like, like they hear that I'm doing Turtles, and that everyone's thinking that it's going to be this dark, thing. And it's like, no, I didn't want to embrace darkness at all. Like, this property to me is like my childhood, like this is like the happiest memories I have, is sort of that era. And I just tried to get that across and hone in on that. Detractors be damned.
There's even baby turtles on it. There's happy baby turtles. They're great.
Absolutely. Well, I appreciate that. I had to get baby turtle. Now, keep in mind, I am a family guy. I've got 3 kids, and unfortunately, they're all aging every year. I don't know if you know this, but they keep getting old.
Yeah, I have a 5-year-old. I'm experiencing that.
Oh no! Just wait. In the blink of an eye, my youngest is now actually 12. My oldest, 19.
Wow.
Now, I'm only 17 years old myself. No, I'm not. I'm pushing 40, 43. But I bring this up because one of the most interesting things about this project that I haven't really spoken about, but is important to me, is my oldest, who is 19. I actually have been interning her, and I interned her through this project. She actually would go with me to Stern, and I sort of showed her the ropes, and she actually got to do a little bit of work on this with me. We got to work together on a few aspects of it, which was really, for me, pretty rewarding and special, and I think for her as well. So, I'll talk more on that later at some point, because some of it has to do with something I can't talk about. But having said that, I would run everything by her and my youngest daughter, and my youngest daughter approved of baby turtles immediately, so I know I was in good shape.
Zach, so we lost you for a second before, but I'm curious of your reaction to the Cowabunga It Is newspaper that Jeremy included. What were your thoughts were on it when he first showed it to you?
I saw that unmute for a second.
I think it's the paper itself. Actually, I don't think he wants to answer that question.
Oh man, what did I miss? As my phone goes back in, it's like I come back to silence. I'm like, uh-oh, what did I miss?
No, it was the same question I'd asked you when we lost you for a second before. I was curious about your reaction to the Cowabunga It Is meme being included on the.
Oh, I loved it. I thought it was incredible, and I love that people are actually spotting it. I mean, just the reaction to that is priceless.
Oh, it's so cool. Zach, this is another question for you. So, I don't think I haven't played a high level pinball machine like this before, and I'm curious, what did you guys do for music? Are there voices on it? Are they original voices? What goes in? What's on that?
Yeah, so we've got speech callouts from licensor approved actors, also including a couple Stern employees. So we have a couple software people who did some of the callouts as Krang and Shredder, and the licensor, had essentially no feedback. They loved what was in the game. So, we worked extremely close with Nickelodeon to, make this as, authentic and sound as real as possible. We have a nice re-recording of the 1987 theme music and a lot of custom tracks to kind of have a groovy pizza turtley feel to it.
Very cool.
Yeah, I have to throw in there the Shredder is the best I've heard of anyone trying to do, because that's a very unique voice. Good old Uncle Phil did for it, and this is the best. And it was actually a fellow that works at Stern who did it. When I first heard it, I was like, what? Like, this is fascinating to me. So
that's awesome.
I think he's got a future.
He does.
Zach, winding things up, I want to know, basically, how do people get their hands on it? So for me, I'm you guys can tell this, but I'm doing this from my turtle lair with arcade machines and tons of toys and other shit like that. But I figure it out for where I want this machine to go. So how do people get a hold of this, basically?
Best bet, go to sternpinball.com, and you can either go to the Buy Game tab, or if you go onto a game page, so if you click on the turtles, which will be the first thing that you'll see on the website, and view the game, you can inquire, and we can get you in touch with your local dealer.
Cool. Sounds great. And for each of you, Jeremy first, who's your favorite turtle?
Donatello.
Why is that?
Oh, because I'm a nerd.
Okay, cool.
Donatello always appealed to me because he seemed like the most socially awkward, and so I was right there.
Same here. Zach, what about you? Favorite turtle?
Well, I can't pick the same answer, even though I probably would have answered that. So I'll go with the second one. I was really big into karate growing up. I was a second-degree black belt in Taekwondo, and my favorite weapon, I don't even want to say weapon, but my tool in the arsenal, I love nunchucks. So I'll have to give the nod to Michelangelo.
That's great. Honestly, guys, both of you, thank you for doing this. This is, you guys have nailed it with this machine. I mean, the diehard turtle fans, and I mean, I would hope pinball fans, like, I think people go nuts over this when they see them. They're amazing machines, and thank you both for doing this. It's fantastic.
No, thank you for having us on.
Yeah, thank you. Greatly appreciate it. And apologies for babbling, but I've been working on this forever. I haven't been able to talk about it.
No, it's great. The details are exactly what I wanted to talk to you guys. So thank you so much. Take care.
Take care.
All right, take care.